Develop and grow.
Right, so we're on to the develop and grow section. So this is obviously the more sort of self-helpy kind of part of our podcast. I don't like that word is stigmatized because, we should strive to be better people. So basically on this one, I had a sort of off-the-air discussion with Barry a couple of weeks back in terms of the effects of journaling. Now, it's not something that I've ever done myself, but I've definitely seen it come across on, various influences and certainly research, just in terms of clarifying your thoughts, forcing you to think about what happened during the day, getting gratitude from all of those processes. And I really just wanted to find out from Barry, who is an active journaler, how it's affected him and, the positive effects. Should this be something that we do?
Sure. So like you say, I've been doing it on and off for a long time now and have found various benefits from it. The major one for me is that it kind of clears my head of all the junk that accumulates over the week or over the day, right? So the idea is to try and download whatever's going on that's up here, whatever's going on that's crazy and emotional things and things that are worrying you and things that are concerning you, and getting it on paper so you get it out of your head. Right. That kind of mental clarity is what you're aiming for. And journaling is one way where you can do that. One way you can sit down and say, cool, these are the 5 to 6 things that have been worrying me, and I'm going to get it out on paper. And for some reason, when it's out on paper and you can look at it objectively as a third party, it doesn't matter as much as it did in your head. I think a lot of times, for someone like me, I overthink everything. And so in my head is always just a chaotic zoo. And when I get it on paper, I realize, hold on, that actually doesn't matter as much as I thought it does. Or maybe that's not as important as I thought it was. Or maybe I can do something to help that or to get around that problem or that obstacle. So it's one of those things where I found tremendous benefit in it when it comes to just giving me clarity when I'm not having a good day, when I'm really down or I'm really dealing with something or I'm not in a good space. What that does mean, though, which is quite amusing, is that if I go and read those journals a week later or 2 weeks later or a year later, as I sometimes do, it's hilarious to watch the kinds of things that we worry about as human beings, right? It kind of gives you a little bit of perspective on all the tiny things that are going wrong in my life. I should be incredibly grateful to have those things go wrong to me because I have every opportunity. I live in a good country. I live in a good space. I've got a lot of opportunities. I'm very, very privileged and very grateful for what I have. But in those moments, you forget that. And so it also is a great mechanism to kind of, as a rear view mirror, to look back and think about, cool, what did my life look like a year ago or 2 years ago? And what kinds of things were I worrying about at that time? Where journaling gets difficult is that it's a difficult habit to get into because it's sitting down by yourself without your phone and either handwriting or typing on a computer and really spilling out some really tough things that most times we don't want to share with other people and definitely don't want to share with ourselves. And so getting that habit going is very difficult. And that's where I've failed over time, is that I've gone through stages where I haven't been in that habit and I kind of go back to it when I'm in real trouble. And I kind of use it as a fail-safe mechanism, but when things are good, I'm not doing it. And so for me, Chad, I don't know what you think about that. For me, I haven't been able to do it consistently day after day. I kind of use it as a tool when I'm going through something that's tough.
I mean, I think it's a good tool to have, and the fact that it's had positive impacts for you clearly means that it's definitely working. But yeah, as somebody who hasn't done it, I'm fascinated in terms of how you basically build those systems and make sure that you do it. It sounds silly. We talk about something like 10 minutes a day, let's say. I don't know what your sort of guide is and what you follow, but we do really find excuses for anything. I feel. So how do you get that discipline and make sure that you actually sit down and do this? And what's the sort of framework for you? Do you have a kind of list situation? Do you kind of just list what happened in the day? What's your sort of framework? What's your sort of timeline? And looking back in terms of when you failed at keeping up with it, what do you think you could do better to carry it on?
Yeah, so I've tried every modality you could think of. I've tried every time, every paper on computer. I've tried it all. And I think it's one of those things you have to try various ways of doing it to try and find the one way that works for you. So the way that works for me is not going to be the same for everybody. And you've got to try and understand yourself to understand, cool, do I enjoy writing things or typing things? Do I enjoy that? Or where am I going to do it in my day? Am I going to do it straight after I wake up? Am I groggy in the morning? Should I do it at night? Or should I do it in both places? I think it really depends on you as a person. For me, when I'm consistent with it, I'm doing it every morning as soon as I wake up. So I'm literally rolling out of bed onto my chair in my half-dazed state, and I'm sitting down with a pen, and Normally, I'm just writing without any prompts, without any questions, just
Right.
kind of stream of consciousness. I have tried a few times with prompts where you'll have a question or two that you'll
Yeah.
answer for that day, and that can help when you're in a bit of a rut, you don't know what to write about.
Sure.
But for someone like me who's got 1,000 things in my head all the time, there's never any shortage of material, right? And it's about having the courage and actually the vulnerability to let that spill onto the page.
Yeah.
That's the most difficult thing. The difficult thing is sitting there on the page when you're not having a good day and you've got a lot of things you're thinking about, or maybe you made a mistake the day before, or you're feeling really shitty about something, and being able to let that spill onto the page without judgment and without censoring it.
Yeah.
You have to remember that no one's going to read this stuff, right? The idea
100%.
is not that you're going to share this online, you're not going to show it to anybody. The idea is that you have to be honest with yourself. And so beyond the habit building of just getting the 10 minutes every day or whatever it is, that's difficult on its own. But what's difficult is being vulnerable enough with yourself to actually be honest. Because often when I started doing it, I found myself writing in like kind of a narrative way, trying to make myself sound cooler and more with it than I was.
Yeah.
And after a while, you realize, what are you doing this for? Like, it's pure ego talking the whole time, right?
Sure.
You actually have to be able to be vulnerable and courageous enough to let the kinds of things you say to yourself in here, in your head, that you wouldn't say to somebody else, you have to be able to write those down. And that's where it gets difficult. But that's where the value is, right? If you're able to take some of the self-talk that you're saying to yourself every single day and put it on paper and look at it for what it is, you can actually change your life.
Well, that's amazing and really powerful. So I definitely am going to try and get into the habit of this, and implore you to as well, because it's worked for so many people. And I mean, just as you say, being able to look back in hindsight at what you were worrying about, however many days, weeks, months, years ago, and actually putting a bit of perspective into your current worries. Life's not perfect. We all have challenges and worries and insecurities and all of those kinds of things. And I think, as you say, being able to look at it objectively on a page in front of you is a refreshing way to do it. So thank you definitely for that.
Across the pond.